Doug MPA back with another live stream. It is Sunday, June 4th, 5 o'clock. I'm going to try and make this a regular thing, 5 o'clock on Sundays. So thank you for joining me. And I wanted to talk about women in debt because in the United States, we had that debt ceiling standoff between the Republicans and the Democrats about raising the debt ceiling. If the debt, if we wouldn't have reached, if the debt ceiling wouldn't have been um, increased, we would have defaulted. It would have been catastrophic. So, in the debt ceiling, student loan repayments will start again August at the end of August 2023. Now, we haven't paid student loans. Americans in student loan debt haven't paid student loans in almost 3 years. 3 years, guys. And it's funny because one of the okay, I've noticed things. I might do a story on it. I saw an article, but I don't know if I've covered it yet. But 121,000 more single women own homes than single men, and they're like, "Oh yeah, see, women are gaining ground and this and that, whatever, blah blah blah." One of the reasons why women are able to do this is because they have been paying their student loans. I guarantee it. And when student loans start back up, you're going to see a lot of women defaulting on the student loan debt and defaulting on their mortgages. And what is the difference between a man buying a house and a woman buying a house? Anyone in the chat, can you guess? Chill vibes, always good to see you. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. When a man men we wait to buy houses because one, we don't start like a lot of female jobs are front loaded. Teachers will get out making $48,000 a year. Nurses will get out of college making $65,000 a year. Female hairstylists make more than male barbers, but the problem is right around 30 to 35, male-dominated positions overtake and exceed the incomes of female-dominated positions. Nurses don't normally make $100,000 a year. They top off at about 90. I'm saying. So, um, but men, we wait till we can afford it, and we buy houses because we think to ourselves, you know what? I can put a wife and kids in this house. Women buy houses as status symbols, investments, and as disqualifiers for potential mates. And not only that, men we're more likely to budget and think about things long term. I know too many women in the area I live, in the DMV, where they'll buy a house knowing that they're barely going to be able to afford it. They'll sign up for a 30-year long loan, being right at it each month. Men, we don't do that because we recognize the consequences of our financial decisions. Yep. So we're going to talk about women in debt. I have a couple of articles I want to cover, and my tagline for my channel, I just figured it out. I'm going to say this in every single stream: when men win, everyone wins. When women win, women win for themselves, and that's one of the biggest problems with women in debt. Okay, women get into this debt because I think a lot of them they just don't think that they're ever going to pay it off, or that somehow they're going to find a man to help them clean that debt up. Women, I'm gonna bring up one of the first things I cover on my channel, where women spend 562,000 more dollars in their lifetime on average than men do. 562,000 more dollars. Um, it's right here. Give me 1 second. 1 second. Oops. Oops. 1 second. Sorry about this, guys. Clicking off all through here. Okay. So you can see the breakdown right here. Okay. Where'd the article go? 1 second, you guys. Sorry about the dead air here. I had it. Oh my goodness. Trying to find the actual article. real quick. 1 second, you guys. 10 reasons nearly 1 in 10 student loan debt. Okay. Yeah. So if you look at the breakdown here, this is how women spend 526,374 more dollars in their lifetime than men. They spend $132,000 more on personal care products, $24,000 on home ownership, $1,920 on feminine care products, $1,500 more dollars on clothing, $300,000 on beauty care products, 66,000 on healthcare. And how do women do this, guys? I don't know if you guys have been married before, but I have. And I divorced my ex-wife because she cost me too much money. And a lot of guys, women see a good relationship as your money is everyone's money, and then her money is her money. Only way that women can spend this much money more than a man is if she's spending your money and her money at the same time. That's the only way. Okay. Don't get caught in that trap, guys. Don't get caught in that trap. And that's one of the expectations of modern women nowadays. Modern women expect to spend her money on whatever she wants and spend your money on whatever she wants. Don't get caught in that trap, guys. Please don't. Okay. But once again, average woman spends 526,374 more dollars in her life than the average man. 1 second. Where's that? 1 second, you guys. Okay. So let's get to one of the main articles I wanted to cover today. Um, First, we're going to talk about credit card debt. This one is called Nearly 1 in 10 women has more than 7.5 thousand in credit card debt and how to realistically pay it off. Guys, they always talk about men and how deficient men are, how men aren't making enough money. Men can't support women, men can't whatever, but men have less debt. We don't talk about the economically unattractive women. There are too many women who have too much debt. They are economically unattractive. Okay, women should have their credit scores and their debt amount written on their foreheads. Guys, a woman's debt and credit score should be a disqualifier for anyone that you're dating or taking seriously. Okay, if you go out, so when I'm considering a woman seriously for dating, no kids, guys, no single mothers. And if you have more than $100,000 in student loan debt, you are automatically disqualified. You're recreational use only. What am I supposed to do with that? What am I supposed to do? I'm getting to the point where you know what? If a woman has bought a house by herself, what am I supposed to do with that? A woman's never gonna don't move in with a woman. And how does a woman owning a house help you? If if a man buys a house and says, "You know what? I can have a wife and kids in this house." He'll meet a woman who's living in an apartment or maybe living with her parents or something. She starts coming over to his house, and if they get serious, she moves her stuff into his house. She'll start putting his stuff in the basement, decorating everything, where he has a man cave in his own basement. A man will let a woman nest in his house, but a woman will never give you that same privilege. So I will go so far as to say women with houses are a red flag, because it doesn't help you at all. And she's going to hold you to some unrealistic standard because you don't own a house and she does. Women in their late 20s, mid 30s who are single, and buying a house is supposed to be a first. You're supposed to buy your first house with your wife or your husband. What is possessing these women to buy houses, do all these first by themselves? I don't understand it. That's modern women for you. So anyway, nearly 1 in 10 women has has more than 7.5 thousand in credit card debt. How to realistically pay it off. Look at all this crap on the screen. Gosh. Ugh. Anyway, the national average credit card interest rate is now over 24%, guys. Yeah, Chill Vibe says they even run up their credit card debt way up as 100% by themselves at that. That's 100% true. Says the national average credit card interest rate is now over 24%, and the genders don't shoulder that burden equally. According to a new Go Bank Rates survey of more than 1,000 women, nearly 1 in 10 struggles with a balance of over $7,500. When excluding the 43% of respondents with no credit card debt, that jumps to more than 16%. So why is toxic borrowing such a routine part of the female experience? I am glad they asked this question. Women make 80% of consumer decisions in this country. Men will put our purchasing power into one thing. So if a guy likes cars, he'll spend all of his money on cars, and that's it. If a guy plays video games, he'll put all of his money into video games. If a guy is into a sport, if he's like a cyclist or like a runner or something, we focus on one thing. But women buy everything else and put it on credit cards. The challenges that women face is when it comes to debt. The challenges women face when it comes to debt are complex and multifaceted. Actually, Michael Collins, it's not. Women like to spend money, especially women in professional positions. Women with high stress jobs feel they have to quell the emotional turmoil of their job with retail therapy. You remember that term? You ever heard that term, retail therapy, before? Yeah, exactly. Says there are several reasons why women may struggle with credit card debt more than men. The following is an examination of those challenges and expert advice on how women can overcome them. Women face no shortage of unique obstacles. This should be fun, guys. Here come all the buzzwords and all the patriarchy and all this stuff. For many women, credit card debt lies at the convergence of historic inequity. I haven't heard that one before. Biological realities and stubborn social norms. Boom, bam, and bam. On March 14th, Equal Pay Day, PayScale released its 2023 Gender Pay Gap Report. You guys. That pesky pay gap. What do I always say? The pay gap is like Hydra and Marvel. Just when you think, when you cut off one head, two appear in its place. Logan Blackwood, thank you for joining the live stream. He says women make up 80 to 85% of consumer purchasing decisions, despite making less money than men. So they're spending twice as a sex than me. Interesting. Why does pay matter then? Exactly. You are 100% correct. And like I said at the beginning of the stream, Logan, one of the first articles I did on my stream was women spend $526,000 more dollars on average in their lifetime than the average man, and they do this because women, your money is her money, and her money is her money too. So Logan says, narrow the pay gap, and women consume more and contribute to global warming. Exactly. Diego Del Sol, thank you for joining. He says, what's the difference between personal care and beauty products? I might, after this, I might bring the article back up so we can dig back into it. But let me get to this one first. It says, its findings show that despite the adoption of helpful income transparency laws, women still earn 83 cents for every $1 that men make. Guys, I hate to do this, but quick fire real quick. Why do women make less? Men work more hours. Men work more dangerous jobs. Men, 90% of STEM students are men. Men stay in the workforce longer. Men take more risks. Men negotiate pay raises. Men are more likely to leave a job and seek another one if they're not getting what they want at work. Just quick fire. We all know the difference. Okay. The result when accounting solely for gender, Women stand to lose an inflation-adjusted $900,000 in lifetime earnings compared to men. The first place to start is fundamentally one about income equality. Diego de Sol says, "Show me the whole facts." Exactly, right? Um, Here's the thing, like Logan Blackwood said, what's the point of addressing the pay gap if women are just gonna spend more? Women are gonna spend most of the money. It's been that way since, you know, since capitalism, pretty much. Okay? Like, what's the point? Address women spending less. How about that? And honestly, nothing is going to be done about the pay gap anytime soon. So, what women can control in their individual lives is spending less, but that takes accountability. And like the Saint Kevin Samuel says, accountability is like kryptonite to modern women. He says, the gender pay gap in the US hasn't changed much in the last 20 years, but it's closer for young earners. So, barring nothing else, women statistically make less money than men despite working the same jobs. That is patently false. Patently false. There is legislation that that bars employers for paying men and women differently for the same job, doing the same amount of work. So knock that off. That is patently false. What's the cost of childcare for many women? It's their careers. In 2022, the average cost of childcare topped $10,000 a year for the first time, according to CNBC. And research from Zippia shows that women are 40% more likely than men to see their careers suffer because they can't afford it. That's because you guys know that 75% of women make $65,000 a year or less. 75%. So this myth that women are bosses and all that stuff, no, they're not. Only 6% of women make six figures by themselves, and only 10% of men. And um, a lot of times, um, women will make as much as childcare. So uh, I live in the DMV area, and guys, try and guess how much. I don't have any kids, but I have friends who have kids in daycare. Try and guess the amount it costs for a kid to go to daycare in the DMV. Anybody? Any guesses? About $1,850 a month. So if you have 2 kids, that's like what, $37,000 a year? $38,000 a year? Like what? If the average woman makes $32,000 a year, $34,000 a year, she's literally working to put 2 kids in daycare. That's the problem. Um Diego de Sol asks, "Do lesbians spend as much money as much on personal care products?" That's a good question. Logan says, "There's good evidence to show scaling effects in pay over time, with negotiated wages rising the gap. So women want to step in and get paid the same immediately without negotiation during the years." That is exactly right, Logan. I did uh, a video on my channel that said that 64% of women just think that they can do their job better than their boss. They just think that they can just do it better. They're not willing to to stick in the time in the industry and get to become an expert to be a supervisor. They just want to try it out because they have this feeling like they can do the job better. That's modern women in the workplace. And it's sad. 1 in 5 unemployed mothers say they would enter the workforce if they had better access to quality childcare. Well, they should have thought about that before they popped out kids outside of marriage. But the fact that they don't has led to a 13% decrease in the employment of mothers over the last 2 decades. And that is directly in correlation to single motherhood, the scourge of America right now, especially on Black in the Black community. America's lack of federal child care and paid family leave is responsible for at least 1/3 of the decline in female employment. Yeah. So it's all the government's fault. Childcare is a major challenge women face, which sinks them into debt, said Bill Rise. In most cases, women are primary caregivers. So when they have a baby, they're highly likely to quit their work, take time off, or take shorter or lesser shifts to get enough time to take care of their children. Huh. And they talked about the pay gap. He just explained one of the reasons why women make 83 cents for every $1 a man makes. Imagine that. These measures result in reduced income and increased financial strain, which might push them to take on debt to meet their household needs. You know what's crazy? There's certain countries in Europe that have a year off for women for maternity leave. So you can work at a corporation or organization, and you can get a year off to take care of it. They will hold your job for a year. Your coworkers are having to make up for you being gone for a year because you had a child. Isn't that crazy? How would companies in the United States even be able to exist like that? It's crazy. Um, these measures result in reduced income, increased financial strain, which might push them to take on debt to meet their household needs. Cultural norms, societal pressure can also lead to debt. No matter the household dynamic, women are more likely than men to adjust their careers to the realities of family life. That's not true. If you're in a marriage, in a committed relationship, the adjustments are equal. Maybe women are more likely because women are single mothers now, and the guys who they have kids with who don't want to be fathers don't adjust to their lifestyles, nor should they. Look, guys, if a woman has if a pregnancy occurs and you talk to the woman about not wanting to be a father, you don't owe that woman anything. Pay her child support, keep on moving. Okay? Don't be held hostage by these women. Don't let them shame you into being a father. And be ready for when that for 14 years from now, when that child comes knocking on your door, keep those veins cold. Open the door, say, "Hey, you're my father." Say, "You know what? You're my daughter or you're my son, and I told your mom I didn't want to be a father. I stuck to my word. I paid my child support. It was very nice to meet you." Tell them to take 3 steps back and slam the door in their face. I don't have any children, but I can tell you, if that were to happen to me right now, all she get is a check. Keep those veins, like Mr. Palmer says. He has a great channel. Keep those veins cold. Okay. It says women may face unique financial challenges, such as raising children as a single parent or taking time off from work to care for family members, which can cause a strain on their finances. But the roots of financial strain go beyond familial obligations. Women also face more societal expectations, whether that be around beauty, health, or how they show up for friends than men. We frequently have heard from users about feeling forced to go into debt. So now they're forced to go into debt, guys. Instead of losing or harming friendships by not participating in trips or shared experiences, guys. So all these girls' trips are putting them in debt. All these, if she buys a handbag, I have to buy a handbag. If she buys a house, I have to buy a house. All these girls' trips, all these, all these girls' brunches are putting women in debt. Apparently, this is crazy. MGTOW by Logic in the house. Good to see you, my friend. It says, women have more expectations. Really, that's news to me. Exactly. I'm gonna read that one more time. We have frequently have heard from users about feeling forced to go into debt instead of losing or harming friendships, but by not participating in trips or shared experiences. Guys, oh my goodness. Then, of course, there's plain old sexism. MGTOW Logic says, all she has to do is be as pretty as possible and pop out kids and poof, she's the winner. That's exactly right. She can be pretty, get with a rich guy, have his kids, divorce him, cash and prizes out the door. So there's a tendency in some circles to consider finance a more male topic, which exacerbates the problem, and so women get ignored further, said David Martinez. That said, the recipe to pay off consumer debt is gender neutral. Despite ugly revolving balances, there is a way out. Even with $7,500 or more in debt, women have the power to regain control over their financial lives. Here's how. I know it sounds like I'm going soft over here. I'm big time by logic. No, no, I'm not getting soft over here. No sympathy for these women. And here's the thing: I get passionate about this, guys, because I'm a 42-year-old successful man, and I'm dating in the DMV area. And the type of professional woman that calls into Kevin Samuels, it the DMV is full of these women. And I go out on dates with these women and their lifestyles. Women will not go down in lifestyle and spending for a relationship or a family. And when I listen to these women, their lifestyles, how much money they spend each month, how much debt they have, it blows my mind. It is crazy. So this is kind of a passive subject for me. I really want women to understand that they can be economically unattractive. If you have too much debt, you are disqualified. Just first consolidate if you can. If you're dealing with multiple card debts, then consolidate. If you can't consolidate, attack your debts in a deliberate order. So, they're probably saying, pay the most expensive off first. Yeah, it's important to prioritize paying off highest interest debt first. And then avoid doing any more damage. Negotiate with lenders and ask for help. Yeah, he has ever looked into those debt consolidation companies? Yeah, don't do that. I've always had good credit, but I have people that have tried that, and it messes up your credit really, really bad. Don't do that. Kenford Julian from Brooklyn, New York. Good to see you, my friend. Good to have you in here. Looking back into we all know women would be complaining about gender pay if 6'6" the chattiest Vladimir Thundersong put a ring on it. He's successful as her ex. Lord Nigel Pennyworth bank balance. Exactly. That's a good. So just finally, it's time to get organized, get a spending plan, avoid digging your hole any deeper. So this is what accountability is supposed to sound like, guys. The next thing to do is make an aggressive budget and stick to it, said Martinez Galicia. All the while, pay off as much debt as you can as soon as you get your salary and start your regular and discretionary spending afterwards. Also, remember, you're not alone. Even your lender might be able to help. Negotiate with creditors for lowest interest rates or payment plans, said Collins. Women can also consider seeking out financial counsel or debt management programs to help them create a realistic plan for paying off their debts. Once again, guys, put this in your brain. Women can be economically unattractive. Women always talk about how men's shortcomings. Oh, we don't have enough men who are leaders. We don't have enough men making enough money. Yeah, well, what about you? The average professional woman spends more in consumer goods each year than the average family of four. That's another stat I found the other day. Economically attractive women are a scourge in the modern age. That is part of being a modern woman. Masculine, hard to deal with, overweight, out of shape, economically unattractive. Yes. Make that just never date a broke chick, 100%. Diego says, before the 1960s, how much was childcare every month? Zero. Women took care of their own kids and were married to the father. 100% correct. Diego del Sol, great job. Okay. So that's credit card debt. Now we're going to talk about one of my favorite things, student loan debt. Let me bring this one real quick. Women own 70% of student loan debt, guys. And they get the student loan debt. Only 9.5% of women are STEM students. So name some degrees, name some useless degrees that women spend their money on. I'll start. Criminology, psychology, sociology, anthropology, business administration or business management, human resource management. criminal justice, guys, marketing, social work, counseling. Women are putting themselves 40, 50, 60,000 dollars in debt for these degrees. And let me not even talk about master's degrees. Education is another one. Gosh. Yes, chill vibes with the home run, a gender studies degree. Yikes. What is that? Anything with studies at the end is useless. Gender studies, African American studies, Pacific Asian Islander studies. What are you supposed to do with that? And why are you in so much debt for that? It's crazy. The one the but the knockout punch is a gender studies degree. Thank you, Chill Vibes. I appreciate that. Logan Blackwood says underwater Taiwanese underwater Taiwanese lesbian gender fluid basket weaving theory women man. Exactly. Women man. Exactly. 100%. So let's get into this article. Women account for 2/3 of US student loan debt. Here's how it affects them. This is fairly recent, April 3rd of 2023. Like most Americans, American Eichberger, no, Amy Eichberger wasn't raised by parents who could easily afford her college tuition. Her dad died before she was born, and her mom lived paycheck to paycheck. Eichberger, by her own account, wasn't the best student in high school and struggled to get scholarships, so she had to take out loans. That was in early 1990s. Tuition for the community college in her Connecticut town cost no more than a few $100 a semester. And guys, I went to community college, a good old community college, and I'm really glad I did because I had a lot of fun at community college. You know, I was knocking the girls down left and right. I was going to school just to get laid. And, I made like C's, C's and B's and stuff like that. But I definitely could have done better. But community college was dirt cheap. And I transferred to the university. I did my undergrad in Vegas. So I got all that out of my system by the time I transferred off to college when I had to start paying real money. So I recommend community college, guys. I recommend community college. Mixed by Logic says, so many jobs require a social work. The pay is so low for that. It's hilarious. As if you look at it, University of Southern California has a 2-year master social work degree online, and they targeted Black and Hispanic women. The program was $120,000. Kevin Samuels actually did a show about that, and the maximum earning potential is $58,000. So you put yourself $120,000 in debt for a job that maxes out at $58,000. But that's women. Make time by Logic. What did Tom Likas say? He used to say that he was an amateur gynecologist, a master debater, and an amateur gynecologist. Oh man. She said, but upon getting her associate's degree and thriving in an academic setting, she decided to level up, getting her bachelor's degree in public health. Then facing lackluster job prospects, she pursued a master in healthcare administration. Now, what are you going to do with a master's in healthcare administration? What are you going to do with that? Nothing. Eventually, she went back to school again, completing a 2-year graduate program required for her current job. Guys, are you ready for this? All in all, she owed $349,769.18 for that education. Guys, oh my gosh. She's never getting out of that. Ever. Ever. It costs $350,000 to raise a child from 0 to 18 in the United States. She literally has a child in student loan debt. She has a child in student loan debt, guys. Now, imagine if you were a man. Imagine if this Amy Eichenberger girl was like a solid 8 out of 10. You know, You ask her out on a date. You go out on a couple of dates. You start smashing. Things start going well. And then she tells you this. Let me know in the chat if Amy were a solid 8, would this be something that you would take up? Let's say she had a good attitude. She was showing, wifey qualities. Would you take this debt on? Would you consider this girl for marriage? Let me know in the chat because she's out of there. She's out. She's out. Logan Blackwood says 100K to get a degree in absolute blogs, 100%. He says master in healthcare fail to solve your own mental illness. That's true. Kimber Julie says run, run, run. McDowell said most of these degrees are just so women can work for the government and nonprofits, and that whole focus there is signing people up for Medicaid and food stamps, and that's it. And that's why this just grows. Yep, it's just like Walmart. Walmart has a whole system to put their new employees on Medicaid and food stamps. And that's what these colleges are doing with these women with these degrees. So, yep, Chill Vibe says that he'd rather die than take that on. McTavish says MSU holder and the Medicaid beneficiary all voted for more Medicaid 100%. Yep. Logan Blackwood says, I might as well take on the debt of my local roulette wheel addict. I'd have a better odds of return. That's 100% true, my friend. 100% true. Americans now hold 1.7 trillion in student loan debt. Nearly 2/3 of that money, at least 929 billion, is owed by women. Guys, this is what we're dealing with in the modern world. Once again, as we're going through this, I want you to think about all the things that these boss women say about men, how deficient we are. I want you to think about all that misandry while we're going through this and talking about all the debt that women are in. Gail by night, Gail at night in the chat. Thank you for being here to support. Thank you so much, Gail. I really appreciate it. Always good to see you. Says Eichenberger was in search of economic mobility, of moving from working to middle class, and indeed her opportunity expanded as her credentials grew, yet tuition rates soar at the same time. The average cost of attendance at a four-year college nearly tripled between 1980 and 2019. Eichenberger's debt snowballed at every turn in her academic journey, as did her expenses. She had a daughter and became a single mother. Who saw that happening, guys? Who saw that happening? Because of course she is. She's staring all this debt in the face, and she's gonna have a child with some dude, and became a single mother while getting her master's degree. Of course. When in doubt, it's getting to the point. When in doubt, assume it's a single mom. Gosh. It says American men paying for women's nonsense degrees and the children that aren't theirs. I mean, exactly. Miktab Alex says women can't create more than they consume. Sorry, it's just a fact. That they don't admit it and appreciate it is a thing men have a problem with. We don't mind doing it, but a thank you is nice. 100%. 100% Miktab by logic. And yes, odds are, well, so chill vibes. If you ask her, it wasn't her choice. She'll tell you, oh, it just happened. But if she decided to have a child out of wedlock, she's a single mother by choice in my book. Especially staring all this debt in the face, knowing that she can't afford to pay it. My brother has someone at his work who's $800,000 in student loan debt pursuing a doctoral degree, and she's going to keep pursuing it until she's $800,000 in student loan debt, and just stays in school. It's crazy. I took out loans for everything because I'm not making $1 million a year. Said she's 51 years old. And still has $349,000 in debt. It just piled on and just kept piling on. The debt Eichenberger was left with, more than her house is worth, is exceptional. On average, borrowers with graduate degrees have roughly $103,000 in student loans. So guys, if a woman, if you are pursuing a woman and she has a master's degree or some kind of advanced degree, on average, she's $100,000 in student loan debt. And you know how I know that's true? Remember earlier I said when I go out with women, if they tell me they have more than $100,000 a year, she's disqualified. I got that number because a lot of the women I've gone out on dates with or I've had casual relationships with have $100,000 or more. 105, like we're right around 100,000. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. So several years back, a girl called into Dave Ramsey wanting help with her college debt, 250K in debt for a BS in social work, making 24 a year now. Dave actually just gave up when he said that. 100%. 100%. Um, but the circumstances she faced are not that unusual, particularly among the country's women. According to research published in 2021 by the women with bachelor's degrees graduate with an average of 2,700 more in student loan debt than their male peers. That gap compounds over time as women take 2 years longer on average to pay off their debt, the interest adding up all the while. As borrowers await the Supreme Court decision on a plan to provide mass student loan debt forgiveness, USA Today examined what's behind the gender imbalances. First, what's going on with the student loans? They talk about Joe Biden forgiving up to $20,000 is sitting with the Supreme Court. There are 2 cases challenging Biden's plan, and they don't know. So student loans are supposed to start back up in August, but they don't know when the decision is going to be made. So technically, they could start having to pay back, and then the decision goes through, and then they get the $10,000 forgiven or the adjustment, or it could get thrown out. We just don't know. Gail says, a lot of women go to school to get over a man, graduate, act like they bosses, post several stats on social media for attention validation, but unemployed and never post how much debt they're in. 100% right, Gail. And she's specifically talking about Black women. What happens when women encounter some kind of hardship, especially in the Black community? Where do they go? Heartbreak, something like that. They run to school. Kevin Samuel said the best. And it's funny because women will feel like they need a change, sign up for some degree, and then usually through the first year that they'll be like, "Why did I start?" When they actually start getting over their heartbreak or the difficulty, but now they're already 1 year in debt, and they've made this commitment, and they have to follow through with it. So Gail is 100% correct. Big Type of Logic says, "Go run up those student debt, gents. It's about to be free." Yeah. So, um, the the status of various student loan related programs and initiative rests on the High Court's decision. He talks about how Trump paused the repayments, 3 years of forbearance. But those repayments could return as soon as this summer, pending the Supreme Court's ruling. Um, uh, a separate lawsuit is pushing for a quicker end to the payment pause. Then last week, Senate Republicans introduced a bill that would ban Biden's loan forgiveness plan, even while it's on hold before the Supreme Court. Advocates, blah blah. Okay. Um, Logan Blackwood just knocked it out of the park. Black men are not disenfranchised the most by wider society. They're most disenfranchised by their women, in my opinion. No greater open hatred towards them than from Black women. I want to give you that slow movie clap, or like someone starts clapping and everyone, because I would say the average Black woman holds a low level, a visible disdain for the average Black man in the United States. There's this low level like hatred. Now, is it everyone? No, but enough for us Black men, we feel it. And it's funny because you feel like you have to dig yourself out of a hole that you didn't even create with a lot of black women. It's crazy. So Logan Blackwood, you just knocked it out of the park, man. Great job. Gail says, exactly. They go to school to fill a void instead of sitting in their stuff working on personal development and getting counseling. Uh, that's too much like right. Exactly. Um, okay, so why do women have more student debt than men? Thanks largely to her advanced education, including a certificate program she completed relatively recently. Eichenberger secured a white collar HR job at Yale New Haven Health, but it wasn't enough to cover the nearly, oh my gosh, 5,000 a month she owed for her loans. Oh my gosh, 5,000 a month she owed for her loans. What are you supposed to do with this? I'm gonna ask you this multiple times. What are you supposed to do with this? 5,000 a month. How does she live right now? How does she live? 5,000 a month. It's story time. Um, um, the in 2015, I worked with a girl, and she, her dad went to University of Georgia Athens Law School, and she was her dad's only child. And her dad insisted that she go to the same law school that he did, because all of his friends could say, "Oh yeah, my son went to UGA Law too, and my daughter went." So she went, knowing that she didn't want to practice law. She hated all 3 years of law school. UG Athens Law, the same school that lead attorney went to, I think. Is that the Bulldogs? I'm not sure. Anyway, it's $60,000 a year. 60,000. So she put herself, what's 60,000 times three? $180,000 in student loan debt for a degree that her dad wanted her to get. She never practiced law. She moved to DC and worked for some nonprofit as a legal counsel, making $60,000 a year. So then, I met her working for the government. Her student loan payments were $1,770 a month. Luckily, her husband had an Ivy League architecture degree, and he worked for a really good firm in DC. So he was able to pay for most of their lifestyle, but she had $1,700 a month in student loan payments. It was crazy. So anyway, back to Miss $5,000 a month in loans. She wound up getting a second job of doing manual labor in an Amazon warehouse on Saturdays and Sundays to help pay off the debt and afford necessities such as groceries. The pandemic had just hit and the moratorium on repayments had begun, but Eichenberger was preparing for their imminent return. Women and women of color, in particular, are paid less than similarly educated men for the same jobs. That is patently false. We need to stop pushing this wage gap narrative. So they're more likely to return to school to bolster their resumes and earn a salary that can support all their expenses, which are often greater than men. Cry me a river. Logan says, it is visible, open, and hostile. The average black woman has a low level content that leads to just sad. That's true. Logan says, 5K a month. They're addicts with cash. They don't spend that much. That's true. Gail at night says, imagine a man being practically debt free and then marrying a woman with well over six figures in student loan debt. And now he's in debt overnight. 100% correct, Gail. 100% correct. Diego, thanks for being here. Catch the playback because I have two more articles I'm going to go through. But thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. So these women have to constantly prove themselves over and over again, says Gloria Blackwell. Okay, so this is Gloria Blackwell. So we already know what she's going to say, but let's read it anyway. Women are out there getting degrees because women are required on so many levels to bring credentials to the table. That's why that proportion of student debt is so high. These women have to constantly prove themselves over and over again. Okay, let's say that's true, but why are you getting so much debt doing it? Go to a state school. Go to school in New Mexico or Wyoming, cheaper states. Why are they going to these expensive schools? For what? and you're gonna get a social work degree from Brown. That's really gonna cost you, and you're still gonna get a job making $58,000 a year. Women are concerned about titles and all this stuff that that puts them in more debt and doesn't help them get a better job. You know, the title of the school at least. Consider these statistics. Ooh, my favorite thing. Women who graduate with a bachelor's degree earn roughly $35,000 a year on average, just 81% of what their male peers make. That's $35,000 a year. That's what the average woman with a bachelor's degree makes. A year after college, women hold a little more than $31,000 in student loan debt, which works out to $307 a month. If the average woman a year out of college spends more than $1,300 on housing and car payments a month, plus another $520 on childcare expenses for the 16% of recent female graduates who are moms. Adding in that 307 student loan payment makes it difficult, if not downright impossible, to make ends meet. Black women ages 25 to 64 who hold bachelor's degrees or higher and work full time have a median salary of $60,681 in 2020. Median salary for similarly educated white men is 91,000, while it was for 75,000 for black men and 60,000 for white women. Look, guys, black men have always and always will earn more than black women. And this says it right here. And black men are in less debt too. How's that possible? Okay. And I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it multiple times throughout the team. Think about all the misandry you hear about men and how deficient we are while we're talking about this. Okay, this is directly counter to that misandrous narrative. Um, yeah. So the median salary for similarly educated white men is 91,000, while it was 75,000 for black men and 67,000. So black women earn the least with a bachelor's degree, while a black guy with a bachelor's degree makes 75,000. Average black woman needs at least a bachelor's degree to earn a higher salary than an average white man with no college degree. And one of the things I like to say on my channel is one thing about being black is a lot of us black people we get stuck on the past. Okay, there is racism, slavery, blah 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 blah. But okay, let's take all that is true. What are you gonna do about it now? A lot of my friends who complain about the past and how hard it was for us, I listen to them. I'm sympathetic. I'm empathetic, but I acknowledge them. But I say, what are you gonna do about it now? And too many of us in the black community are stuck on how we got here, but they don't want to figure out what they want to do about it, because once you ask yourself, what am I going to do about it now? That's when the real work starts. Um, Eichenberger didn't get paid maternity leave, so she had to go into forbearance during that time, still accruing interest. Childcare needs also forced her to take lower paying jobs that would otherwise, so she would otherwise, wait, I'm sorry. Childcare needs also forced her to take lower paying jobs than she would otherwise, so she could have a flexible schedule. And that's another thing about women in the workplace. Women want these flexible schedules where guys, we don't care about that. We just want the money. It's basically stretching out your loan many, many more years with many, many more years of interest being tacked on. Student loan debt nearly triples in 15 years. Look at this chart, guys. Look at this. Yikes. Um, Looking back, the average black woman with a bachelor's degree earns more than the average black man, not specific, and yet they ain't nothing. Entitlement. Yep, that's true. Oh, he means earn less. Okay, I understand what you're trying to say. Average black man earns 40K. Gail says, whatever. Men don't want a woman in debt for a useless degree. Women can be competing with men to get more degrees, make more money instead of competing with other women to get a ring. 100% true, Gail. 100%. Logan Blackwood says, need a movement that says to black women, black men are speaking time to shut the F up. Oh, yes. And this is true. The Color Purple is getting a remake. Oh, no, you guys. Oh, no. Ah. We're gonna have to keep track of that one, guys, because I think it's coming out in December and it's produced by Oprah Winfrey. That's not a good thing either. So we'll have to keep tabs on that one. It says, for Black women, more debt does not equate to a higher salary. College costs have soared over the past several decades, fast outpacing inflation, increasing in financial aid such as Pell Grants that are reserved for low income students. Declining state funding for public higher education institutions is a key reason for the ballooning in costs. They talk about Pell Grants. I don't care about that. Students without the means have been forced to take out more student loans. As a result, challenges are particularly pronounced among women of color who are more likely than their male peers to attend college, but far less likely than white women to be able to afford it. Women still don't get okay. The notion is that they get a degree so they can be competitive in the workforce. Um, says Brittany Williams, who co-authored Education Trust and is herself a Black woman borrower and a mother in the midst of completing her PhD. How much are you in a bet? She's a single mom. How much are you in a bet? But for women, and especially those of color, more debt does not equate a higher salary. Still, Williams doesn't question the worth of college degrees. For those of us who hold degrees, even with student loan debt, we see greater opportunity than those who, for whatever extenuating reasons, cannot complete that degree, she said. I hope we don't lose that ideal of higher education as a path to middle class for women and people of color. Notice how she didn't mention anything about families or men. At the end of the day, college should be affordable for everyone, just not for an elite few. And women, in particular women of color, shouldn't have to sacrifice their financial future to get the education that certainly is a potential pathway for equal economic opportunity. The problem is not because so many women get degrees and stuff that doesn't matter. Carlos X in the house. Always good to see you, my friends. Yeah, it's a matter of time. They're going to brag about no Spielberg this time. Yeah, exactly. 100%. Gail says, and based upon the trailer, it's trash. The Color Purple remake comes out Xmas. I hear a lot of people are planning on boycotting it, as they should. And it's funny. Look at all the cope that's going to be around this movie, because you guys remember The Woman King from last year? How they said it was because it was technically a flop. If you put in the budget of The Woman King in its marketing budget, it lost the studio money. But all that cope was like, it's such a good movie. And the funniest part about the Woman King is they wanted Lupita Nyong'o to do that role, but she found out the history of the tribe of the Woman King, the Dahomey, and she turned it down. So Viola Davis did it, thinking that maybe she was gonna get an Oscar nod for it, and that movie didn't get nominated for anything. So the director and Viola Davis were all mad that she didn't get nominated for an Oscar. Yeah, not only did the movie flop, but you didn't get nominated for anything. So I think that we're going to see a lot of this Woman King copium around the Color Purple. Um, Logan says, no, it's becoming an issue. White men made films with Black people when women started coming in. Exactly. Carlos, good to see you. The Color Purple was always trash because of the portrayal it made. Feminist trash, men. Exactly. Logan, you are knocking it out of the park. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And yes, it is propagandist trash. Confusion over public student loan forgiveness. Biden's working to reduce the burden of borrowers on student loan debt. The public service loan forgiveness relieves the student debt for people such as teachers, military members, first responders after they spent a decade on the job, but the rules have never been clear. Administration of the program has always been messy. I remember that Betsy DeVos, when Trump was president, made it really, really hard to get into that program. So Biden kind of cleared that up a little bit, but people should be paying back their loans anyway. So I'll just say that. Despite working ineligible roles for more than a quarter century, Eichenberger, for her part, long struggled to have her debt forgiven through the program. She says she submitted forms and never heard back. I was like, okay, I'm just stuck with this debt. It's going to be here until I die. My kid's going to inherit it. You live in denial, but it's always sitting over there. It was so daunting. That's your life. And then you second guess that the degrees were worth it, but you can't do anything about it now. Last year, with the help of a public student loan coaching service offered through her healthcare job, she resubmitted her PSLF application. She didn't think the coaching service would work, but in January, she received a life-changing letter. Her nearly 350,000 in student loan debt had been erased. She owed zero. That's your tax dollars, guys. Your tax dollars. The revelation since has become bittersweet. Eichenberger's 26-year-old daughter, an aspiring sign language interpreter. Okay, that's a noble position. But how much money is her daughter gonna get in to get that degree? Try college for a semester before dropping out. She told Eichenberger it was her fear of loans, having seen what they did to her mother and their family, that convinced her to give up. This is probably what hurts me the most, Eichenberger said. She saw my struggle, which made her not want to further her education. She got $350,000 forgiven. And hey, I guess she worked in public service for 15 years, so more power to her. But that's your tax dollars, guys. Economically unattractive women, economically unattractive, and they use these degrees. They they have to cope with this debt by waving this expensive degree in your face as a man. I'm telling you, women with this debt, it's just out of control. And like I said at the beginning of the stream, how much debt a woman has should be a disqualifier for you as a man. Don't take on these women's debt. Don't do it. Why? And it's funny because only 17% of people work for the federal. I think 16% work for the federal government, but I think only 34% of people work in like public service. So all the women who work for private corporations, there is no student loan forgiveness for them. None. Zero. They're stuck with it. $360,000 in student loan debt. Okay. Last thing we're going to cover is 10 reasons why people stay in debt. Now, of course, the article has 3 women walking down the street. Um, give me 1 second. Throw in their faces. Oh, here it is. 10 reasons why people stay in debt. And of course, the picture has 3 women holding shopping bags. So I'm pretty sure women are what they're talking about, because once again, women hold most of the consumer debt, they hold most of the student loan debt, and they spend the most money. And they end up making worse deals and mortgages and own more in housing. Um, Logan Blackwood says, actually, let's see a race and gender swap color purple of an angry black woman be very progressive. No, Logan, you got it wrong. You call that stunning and brave. Oh no. Yep. Kimber Julian says, fail, fail, Little Mermaid. Bunch of Disney woke trash. Okay. Let me talk about the Little Mermaid real quick. Race swapping characters. Here's the thing. There are plenty of tale African American tales on the African continent, tales in Latin America of darker skinned princesses. But Disney doesn't think that they can make money off of an original idea like that. So they will race swap an existing character. And the thing about it is it's lazy because any the narrative about people being racist about a race swap character comes out before the movie even comes out. If you see a race swap Disney character or Marvel character, and all of a sudden the company is talking about the fans being racist, it's because the movie's not going to be good, and they know it, and they're trying to smoke screen the the movie for having a lower quality. That's how it is. It's becoming formulaic at this point. And the Little Mermaid is ground zero for that. Ground zero. Carlos X says, of course, sign language interpreter, of course. Gail says, they may get paid doing sign language in courtrooms, but I'm not 100% sure that that's true. Um, Carlos X says, I didn't know that only government workers get loan forgiveness. Yeah, the public student loan forgiveness program is only for people that work in like public service. So you have to be a teacher. I think you can be a state employee or a county employee, but only if you work for the government. Logan Becker says shopping bags is probably the most accurate in the West. Buying stuff they can't afford, education or consumer status symbols, 100%. Carlos X says, My Latinos Are Next. Some movie about a Latino fella helping create spicy chips on Disney. I saw that. What about the Blue Beetle movie? And George Lopez calling Batman a fascist. Oh, and Carlos, what about the whole Latinx thing? Oh my goodness. Yikes. So, back to this article here. Guys, I live in one of those they have, a kind of property called multi-use, where it's like the shops on the bottom with the condos on the top, then the townhomes. There's a grocery store, a gym, and, so I drive, but when I come home, I can walk to the grocery store, I can walk to restaurants, whatever. I have a Target right next to me, right? And whenever I go in there, I see packs of women doing their little, like, Sunday or Saturday hangout time in Target buying stuff. This is what it looks like these ladies are doing. They're having their little Sunday brunch. They probably just got back from Sunday brunch, and they're gonna spend a bunch of money on stuff, that they don't need. If you're taking time to read this, you probably already know personal debt is a serious problem in the United States. The statistics bear this fact out. Um, yeah, Carlos says, so goofy Latinx never have been down for it. College Mexicanos trying to put their stamp on things. It isn't even college Mexicanos. It's academic white people. It's liberal white academics that came up with this term. Because listen, um, if you taking the time to read this, you probably already know personal debt is a serious problem in the United States. The statistics bear this fact out. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, U.S. credit card debt reached $925 billion in the third quarter of 2022. Could possibly reach $1 trillion this year. The average American household now carries a whopping balance of $17,000 on credit card from month to month. God, the West is finished. It's finished, you guys. Oh my gosh, $17,000. Oh, Americans spend years dealing with these debts, the credit card fees, interest, expenses that accrue, the minimum monthly payments that put little to no dent in card balances, the time spent each month managing the bills, and the missed opportunities due to your financial hardship. For most people, debt isn't a short-term problem. It often takes years to pay off and get onto more sound financial footing. So why are so many people struggling with credit card bills and loan payments these days? Check out 10 of the top reasons people remain in debt. And okay, guys, one thing I've noticed, because I worked retail a long time too when I was young and wait tables. How many of you people know people where they pay off their debts and then Christmas time they put they spend $10,000 on Christmas gifts and then spend the whole year paying it off after that. And then the next year they do it again. The next year they do it again. Or their anniversary, they'll put $5,000 or $6,000 for a trip on a credit card. And then spend the whole year paying it off and just keep doing it over and over and over again. Yes, that's a thing. So let's talk about the top reasons why people stay in debt. And like I said before, it's just so funny that the picture is three women with bags walking down the street. Failing to plan. This is 100% correct. There's an old saying: people who don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. When it comes to debt, that could be true. According to a study, only 32% of Americans have a household budget. Guys, 32%. Without one, it's difficult to regulate spending and saving each month. Relying on little more than intuition often leads to failed financial decisions on responsibilities like retirement savings and the purchase of big ticket items. No budget, no financial plan. Without a budget, it's extremely difficult to forecast how much money a household will need to sustain itself for the month or how to best allocate an unexpected inflow of cash. As a result, people often rely on credit cards to carry them through the rough patches every month, but pulling out the card when they don't have cash on hand adds debt to debt. Additionally, lacking a larger plan for how to allocate their money is a surefire way to suddenly find themselves overwhelmed with debt. 32% of people. And I wonder what the percentage on how many women have budgets. I got to try to find that stat later. Out of control spending. It's easier than ever to spend money on consumer goods these days, and many people do so with abandon. How many people, go on Amazon and clickety clickety click, especially during the pandemic? I have two friends who are UPS drivers, and they said 2020 delivering for UPS, it was like Christmas all year long because people who were just buying stuff. I had a friend who had to lug a pool table up 6 flights of stairs in DC because these people were so bored during the lockdown. They bought a pool table and a foosball table and a 2-bedroom apartment. Says credit cards make it tempting to forego impulse control and purchase large and small consumer goods, from cars and boats to the most powerful laptop and latest tablet. And when it would have made more sense to comparison shop or save up the cash for a purchase. In fact, having a credit card on hand will often lead consumers to make a purchase that they would have passed on if they were paying in cash. And one more thing about clicking on Amazon. I did my undergrad in Vegas, and I graduated in 2006, and that's when like the whole World Series of Poker took off, and a lot of online poker started. And I remember UNLV, they did a study that showed that people are a lot more likely to spend more money, to bet more money betting on poker online than they are actually in a casino, because in a casino, you have to take money out, you have to get chips, and when you're sitting at a poker table, you have that connection to your chips and how much you're actually putting down on the table. Online, you don't have that that kinesthetic, or that touch connection with the chips. All you're doing is just clicking, clicking, clicking. So people that have their credit card attached to the bets on their poker games would end up spending a lot more and going a lot more into debt than the people that were actually going into the casinos and betting with chips. Says credit cards have become a financial crutch for American consumers. Purchases using cash already earned are often a secondary option for people armed with plastic. With everyone so willing to finance their everyday lives these days, it's not surprising that people remain in debt. Limited cash flow. Many people take on too much debt only to find they don't earn enough money to put a dent in their credit card balances. Once borrowers have accumulated a significant amount of debt, the interest expenses and other fees they pay each month often offset any progress. Most borrowers have other significant monthly expenses for things such as rent, utilities, insurance, childcare, and they don't have significant leeway to commit more towards paying down debt. Some borrowers manage to find remedies to mitigate the effects on limited income. They cut their discretionary ending. However, many people don't have the time to work more and can't cut additional expenses due to their limited income. Yeah, so they get a side hustle or a part-time job. Underemployment or unemployment. If you've accumulated significant amounts of debt and then suddenly find yourself unemployed, it will be nearly impossible to make payments on your debts. You'll often rack up additional interest expenses and penalty fees while trying to remedy your work situation. Underemployment can also lead to overwhelming debt. If you find yourself with a substantial cut in hours and a smaller paycheck, it may be hard to make more than the minimum payments of your credit cards. You may also rely upon your credit cards to buffer you through a rough patch. Doing this will likely lead to it. Number 5, one of the most important, a devil may care attitude. Let's go back up to the picture here. What does this look like? A devil may care attitude. Okay. You can also blame complacency for debt. After all, who wants to go to an ATM, take out cash when you could just tap and go? Too many people aren't paying close attention to the balances they're racking up until the bill comes due and they have no way to pay. It's easy to become complacent when using credit cards since it has become a part of life. Before you know it, those credit card lunches and last month's vacation can balloon into thousands of dollars in debt if you're unmotivated about paying down your credit card balances. And about 43% of people can 43% can only make the minimum payments each month. You can find yourself deeply in debt. Gosh, 43%. It's crazy. I have no credit card debt, by the way. You know, I have one credit card, but I barely use it because I'm telling you, I've heard some horror stories, man. I've seen people in some consumer debt. Living beyond your means. Many people use debt to maintain a lifestyle that is beyond their means. These are credit cards to purchase items they otherwise wouldn't be able to afford. In fact, accumulating large amounts of credit card debt is commonly viewed as an indicator that a person is overspending. If you find yourself needing to rely upon a credit card to pay your everyday expenses, such as utilities or groceries, you are likely in financial straits. High earners often have access to correspondingly high amounts of debt. They can qualify for credit cards with high limits, and they often have assets that enable them to apply for secured loans that require collateral. If they're too liberal with using that access to finance a lavish lifestyle, they can rack up dangerous levels of debt. And that is 100% true. I've heard federal employees, like clinicians, and I hate to say it, guys, but law enforcement and federal employees have the worst spending habits. One of my friends works for the federal government and said one of the perks of working for the federal government is I can spend my entire paycheck each month. She literally said that to me. I said, "You spend your entire paycheck each month?" She said, "Yes." I said, "I can't believe it." Failure to adapt. Once again, clinicians, doctors, nurses make a lot of money, but they spend a lot of money too. Spend a lot of money. And then lawyers, the golden handcuffs. A lot of lawyers hate their jobs, but they like the money, and to justify hate, to help them get over hating their jobs, they spend a lot of money and put themselves into a lot of debt. Number 7, failure to adopt. Some people recognize they're accumulating too much debt, but nonetheless find themselves unable to change their habits. Find themselves unable to change their habits. Unless they receive a sudden windfall, borrowers who decide to get out of debt often must make significant lifestyle changes. They may have to cut back significantly on spending, get another job because all their debts, and work with a debt settlement company. For many people, any one of these things is a bridge too far. How is that a bridge too far? And they're unwilling or unable to make the necessary changes. Change is hard, especially when it comes to money. If you've lived a certain way for a long time, it may be difficult to make the required sacrifices to pay down those credit card debts. Additionally, if your family or friends and others close to you maintain a certain lifestyle, it can be difficult to break up with them in order to pay off your debt. Sometimes it's simply a matter of fear. Story time again, you guys. I knew a couple that they had a household income of $300,000 a year. Husband was white, woman was Indian. They worked in Maryland, but they moved to Alexandria, Virginia, because, like, for 4 or 5 years in a row, Alexandria was the number one place where, like, 27 to 37-year-old professionals were moving to because it was the swank, cool place to live. And this guy and his wife were perpetually in debt. Uh, I was talking to him at work because he would call his wife on the phone, and they would fight, and I said, Bro, what's wrong?" He said, "We're in a lot of debt." Like, they had 2 kids, and the kids were going to private school. When they moved to Alexandria, they bought a townhouse that was like $800,000, $900,000, and he was arguing with his wife one day because they had taken out their 4th credit card to pay for utilities, gas, and stuff. And I said, "Well, why don't you just, like, stop?" I said, Why don't you adjust your lifestyle?" He said, his wife's family comes from an Indian family, and they expect their daughter and grandchildren to have a certain lifestyle. So she expected the lifestyle too. So they had taken out their fourth credit card to pay for groceries, gas, utilities. And he was just like, we can't keep doing this. And he wanted her to talk to her family and say, we need to scale things back. Maybe move out of Alexandria, maybe sell their house, but she wasn't having it. It was crazy. How do you have a household income of over $300,000 a year and live paycheck to paycheck? It's crazy. Says 8, I don't know how. Many people simply don't know where to begin to pay off their debt. Besides surviving the Great Recession and the turmoil it brought, many Americans remain woefully ignorant about money matters. A study found that about 2/3 of Americans couldn't pass a basic financial literacy test, and they didn't understand how basic financial concepts affected them. Did you hear that, you guys? A study found that 2/3 of Americans couldn't pass a basic financial literacy test. So they don't know about APRs. They don't know about, revolving debt, all that stuff like that. Therefore, it's not surprising so many are struggling without outstanding debt. If you don't understand how interest rates work and how higher interest rates on some cards can lead to the rapid accumulation of high debt balances, it can be difficult to pay down your debts. 9, lack of follow through. Sometimes people realize they have a serious debt problem. New type of logic says, that's all a man's problem. Yeah, exactly. Yep, that's true. Um, Sometimes people realize they have a serious debt problem, get help, and have good intentions to resolve it. They may work with a credit counselor or take more concrete measures, such as obtaining a debt consolidation loan to combine all their debts. However, when it comes time to implement the plan, they fail to follow through. Some borrowers may be unable or unwilling to make payments as required on a debt consolidation loan or debt settlement plan. Others often lack self discipline when it comes to debt, so they take out new loans and credit cards even as they're working to pay off old balances. Guys, I have friends who have claimed bankruptcy, went through bankruptcy court. Do you know that when your bankruptcy goes through, um, you'll get they'll get credit offers in the mail for credit cards. Like these credit companies have seen that you claim bankruptcy and will still give you offers for credit cards, and people do it. Yeah. Number 10, marriage problems. Sometimes you're not the problem at all. Instead, it's your spouse. If you and your partner can't agree on finances, it can lead to problems down the road, including a high amount of outstanding debt in both your names. Managing finances together can be a major source of stress for married couples. In fact, financial problems are one of the top reasons marriage end in divorce. Financial problems is the number one reason why marriages end in divorce. Women divorce men 70 to 80% of the time. Financial reasons is number one. Irreconcilable differences is number two. Uh, Infidelity is number three. Spouses cannot see eye to eye when it comes to money. There are options. The first and most important thing you should do is talk about finances as well and how to manage them, especially if they're accumulating credit card debt. Traditional counseling can help couples communicate about major issues they have with one another, including spending debt financially. Finally, working together, choose a financial planner who specializes in working with married couples. You don't have to stay in debt forever. Debt is a serious problem that many are currently struggling with. Heavy debt can limit your ability to enjoy your life and take advantage of fleeting opportunities to enhance your lifestyle. It's also a major source of stress. Yet, despite all the problems that debt causes, there are still many reasons why people never become debt free. It doesn't have to be this way. Call the National Debt Relief Program. So, once again, Big Top of Logic says, lack discipline? No, really? Yeah, of course. Hollis X says they're a proven winner, loser, exactly. And then McDevitt Logic says, in a no-fault divorce, whoever filed should lose the first 30% of net assets to other spouse right off the top. I think whoever files divorce should have to pay for all the attorney fees. If you want out, you pay for all the legal processes. How about that? So if a woman wants to divorce her husband, she needs to have the money saved up for all the lawyers and the whole process. That's what I think. Big Type of Logic says, no fault divorce can't be allowed to stay as easy and profitable as a fault divorce. Exactly 100%. And if you quit your job, you can't get unemployment. That is true. I'm going to say it one more time. I hope this whole time you've been thinking about economically unattractive women. Is there a lot of them out there? Okay. Most of these issues that they're talking about in these top 10, I picture women. There are some financially responsible men, but we know that women own the most debt. And women owning debt, the numbers are only going up each year. Okay. And then it's going to be interesting 10 years from now to see who owns what debt now that all these guys are not going to college anymore. There is an unprecedented drop off of men going to college, and so they're not going to have student loan debt. And it usually takes 5 to 7 years for a new trend for you to be able to get stone cold accurate numbers. So it's going to be great to see who's in debt for what after all the current trends with men, ditching college and going towards more blue collar. Or remember that this 7.5 million prime working age men who are choosing not to work. And honestly, a lot of them, why should men, we are motivated to work, put ourselves in debt, buy homes for the prospect of family and children, a wife and kids. But if a lot of these women aren't marriageable, what's the point? If you have a job, you're earning money, and you're freaking headed somewhere, hey, do what you want to do, guys. I always say one of the best parts about feminism freed women up from having to be barefoot and pregnant um, in the kitchen, but it also freed up men from what we've traditionally had to do too. Okay. We used to have a duty to society. We used to have a duty to carry our communities, our wives, our children on our backs, but not anymore. Guys, think about yourself first. You need to do what you have to do. Figure out what you want to do. And if you choose to have a wife and kids, make sure you're in the best position to be able to do it. And like I say on my channel, make sure you can pay 100% of the bills, because a lot of women say they want 50-50, but they reserve the right to change their minds whenever they want. And a lot of times, if they change their mind when a child is born. So once again, I'm asked, after all we've gone over today, let's say, guys in the chat, if you were with a woman who was a solid 8, she's about, let's say you're 32, she's like 25, right? You start dating, and she has a good attitude, you know, she's willing to get on your program, but she's like a social worker. She's a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in social work, and she makes like 100, no, she makes $50,000 a year, but she's $150,000 in student loan debt and about $15,000 in credit card debt. Would you take that woman seriously? Would you guys? Let me know in the chat, because I wouldn't. I can't do it. I can't. I don't do women with kids. I don't do women with a lot of student loan debt. And like we saw earlier, if a woman has a graduate degree, odds are she's $103,000 in student loan debt. This is the reality of the modern woman in modern dating. These are the women that we have to choose from. It's awful. So guys, all I'm saying is please be careful. Ahu Aman, thank you for joining. He says, if you lack discipline, you're fat 100%. All men should be able to bench press 250 pounds. I agree with that. Big Type of Logic says, if you're gonna marry, you must plan the finances to guarantee there is as much as possible to split when she divorces you. It's better to split a mill than nothing. That's on you, not her. 100%. Big Type by Logic. Carlos said, I would run. Hinford's emoji game on point as usual. Metabolic says, assume the divorce will happen now. What you want to spit a mill or nothing? 100%. Kinford says, run, run, run. Ahu Aman says, may take a decade to get what you want. People are just getting out of school. 12 years of knowledge. I know. I have friends who went from high school to undergrad to grad school to PhD, and they spent 10 years in school, dude. 10 years. Isn't that crazy? So those are all the articles I wanted to go over. Let's do um let's look at this article real quick and let's see the breakdown as to why women spend $562,000 more dollars. Let's do a deep dive into that real quick because I know someone asked about the difference between personal hygiene and um and other parts of it. So let's see here. Okay. Here's why women spend 526K more than men over their lifetimes. Okay. They always start off with the whole pink tax thing. Remember, the pink tax is where women products are they have to pay more for women's products than the men's products. But why is that? It's because women are willing to pay for it. If they made up a big enough stink, companies wouldn't do that. So we're gonna skip over that. A 526 no, 526K lifetime tab. All the ways women pay more than men. Women pay more for everything from shampoo to healthcare, and those costs really add up to the tune of over $500,000 on average. Here's a look at how that breaks down. You guys ready? As personal care products, on average, women's shampoo costs around $9, while men's shampoo costs close to $6. The Business Insider reported. Her Money crunched the numbers and found that if a woman spends $3 more than a man on every bottle of shampoo, suppose she buys 60 years worth of shampoo, she'll be spending $1,260 more than a man over the course of a lifetime on shampoo alone. Women are also charged more for other hair care products, razors, deodorants, shaving cream, body wash, lotion, other personal care items. Her Money estimated that the average cost women pay for these products over a lifetime adds up to a whopping $132,000. Home ownership. Buying a home is a major expense, and it turns out that women tend to pay more for their homes than men. According to research conducted by Jerry, single women pay 2% more than single men when buying homes and sell their homes for 2% less, resulting in an extra cost of $24,000 for single women in the home buying and selling process relative to men. In addition, women have a 0.04% higher mortgage rate than men on average and may pay up to $5,100 more than men over a 30-year fixed loan period. Feminine care products. Feminine care products are an expense that men can avoid entirely. I don't know. Can they nowadays? Let's not even get into that. That's so awful. Feminine care products are an expense that men can avoid entirely, while women spend an average of 1920 over the course of their lifetimes. Her Money reported. Clothing and accessories. Women clothing has long been more expensive than men's clothing, but there's been a drastic uptick in recent years. Since 2017, women's clothing has become 40% more expensive. What? And while men's clothing has increased by 25%. Shondaland reported women's underwear, handbags, and jeans have nearly doubled in price, but women keep paying for it, especially all these name brands and all these designers and stuff. No one cares. The average women's shirt costs shirt now costs $5 more than the average men's shirt, assuming she buys a new shirt every 2 months over the course of her lifetime. That's a $1,500 difference. And that's just for shirts alone. That doesn't include the added cost of dressing overall, as women are also expected by society to have more expensive wardrobes than men. Beauty products. As a feminine care product, this is another category that many men avoid altogether, and it's an expensive one. BuzzFeed reports that the average woman in the U.S. spends $300,000 on makeup in her lifetime, guys. What are we supposed to do with this? I've asked this multiple times. What are we supposed to do? A lot of these women wouldn't have to spend all this money on clothes and makeup if they would just go to the gym. A 2019 study conducted by Kaiser Family Foundation found that women pay more than men for healthcare services during every phase of life. Much of this difference is due to the fact that women have to pay for gynecological care, whether for routine checkups. They break down all these numbers. Average woman spends $5,908 per year, while the average man spends $4,825. That's a $1,639 difference. Okay, total cost. Extra money spent on personal care products, 132,000. Extra money spent on home ownership, 24,000. Feminine products, 1,920. Extra money spent on clothing, 1,500. Extra money spent on beauty care products. So beauty products are literally just makeup, guys. $300,000. Money spent on healthcare, 66,000. $526,374. Talk about the pink tax. I don't care about that. Okay. So, and I'm going to say it again. One of the reasons why women can spend $526,000 more than a man is because they'll spend her money. She'll spend her money, and she'll spend your money too. But that is all I had for today. I hope I gave you guys a lot to think about. Women are just going to spend more money. More women are going to college and getting themselves into college debt. More women are buying homes, so they're putting themselves in mortgage debt. And all of this should be a reason for you to disqualify a woman for serious consideration, guys. Don't take on a woman with a lot of debt. Don't take on a single mother. Don't do any of that. Okay. The default position is no, not yes. Okay. And don't be afraid to tell, well, why didn't you want to take things serious with me? Or why didn't it's because you have too much debt. Okay. Don't be afraid to tell women this. We got to start being honest with women. Okay. So thank you for being here, everyone. I'm going to wrap things up here. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. This is Doug MPA, and my tagline is: when men win, everyone wins. When women win for themselves. Okay, make sure that you win, because as a man, when you win for your community, you win for your family, you win for society. That's how society was built: was men winning and care and building communities on their backs with their hard work, sweat, and tears. So I am going to wait. Kenford's asking for a link. A link for what? Anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up. Carlos, who I'm on MGTOW by Logic, Kenford, Gail. I really appreciate you guys being here, and I will catch you on the next one.